Nope. Welcome again to another watch party. And today we have James Hellier joining me and introduce the film, James. We'll get it going.
Oh, well, this week it is my first pick, and it is Toby Hooper's Invaders from Mars from 1986, the middle part of his Cannon Films Cocaine trilogy.
And I believe um, we've seen, I think, one of the other ones, haven't we?
We've seen Life Force, which is the first picture he did.
And which one is the third?
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Well, I might have to put that on the list.
Basically, Cannon Films gave him this three-picture deal with one condition: one of the films had to be Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
And that's
The
a
only
classic.
one that Toby Hooper came forward as his own idea right at the start was he'd watched a VHS of 1953's Invaders from Mars and said, "Can I remake that?" And while he was off doing Life Force, Galan and Golobus went off and bought him the rights.
And here we are today. This is a Toby Hooper classic. And without further ado, let's get a move on. You want to count us down?
Okay, in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and go.
All right. So, as the movie gets a moving along, let's introduce everybody in the chat. On YouTube, we have Miss Swift. We have Alex Peacock, and there you are, James, you're in the co-pilot seat. You are on YouTube as well. Let's see. We have Eric Matt. Oh, Johnny Devick. Let's see. And then over on Discord, Edward the Black Prince. Hey, Miss Swift. Jedi Wizard. Let's see. Eric Brainwire. Hello, everyone. Who am I missing? I think the gang's all here. All right, so let's start the discussion with, is everybody familiar with this movie? Have you seen it before? If so, what's your fondest memory of this movie? Take it away, James. Tell me why you chose this.
It's probably one of Toby Hooper's least seen films. It certainly wasn't in the cinema for very long because Cannon didn't seem to be very good at getting their films in the cinema for long. And it's one that's quite odd in a lot of ways because it's Toby, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Hooper making a children's film, which has a kind of disconnect to it.
Yeah, and there was a comment already. Mad Matt made a comment about these credits. That's probably one of the first things we'll recognize is that's very similar to the Superman movies. So I wonder if the visual effects was done by the same person. Of course, Superman and Superman 2 came out roughly 6 years before this movie. So yeah, okay. A lot of people are saying, okay, so this is they're either first time watching or they're pretty familiar with this movie.
I'm far more familiar with the 1953 one because that
Mhm.
got shown on BBC Two all the time when I was a kid. And obviously, the version I'd be familiar with isn't the version you lot would be familiar with because in Europe we had a different ending to the film.
Is it because of the rating system they didn't agree with this ending?
Well, in the original film in the American cut ends with David waking up to find it was all a dream, only for it to then start happening again for real. And our censors thought that was a bit too negative. So it all happened and the aliens were defeated. And that's our ending.
Okay, very interesting. So this is the story of David and his adventures. I had this all worked out. It's the story of David with Nurse Ratched and Nurse Linda and going on an adventure with screwed up parents. I guess you could say
Well,
that's the funny version.
well, I think there's something interesting. I think going on with the casting in it that means that I think might have been Toby Hooper trying to say something because you've got Timothy Bottoms as Dad, who was in the Last Picture Show. The lady playing the mother was on Saturday Night Live. You've got Louise Fletcher, who was, of course, Nurse Ratched. All kind of counter. Oh, and of course, Karen Black, who played a transsexual in a Robert Aldrich film. So they're all kind of counterculture people playing against their type. And I was just wondering if that was him having a sly wink at Reagan's America.
It's very interesting casting, in my opinion, especially Lorraine Newman, who, for those who do remember, she was on the first couple seasons of Saturday Night Live. And she was, yeah, Calbot has a picture of her as one of the Coneheads. She was the daughter of the Coneheads. So that's how she kind of got her start. And so this is a very different departure from her. And of course, what is the name of the boy who plays David? Hunter Carson.
Who
He
is
is
Karen?
actually
He's
Karen
Karen
Black.
Black's son, and
Yep.
apparently Toby Hooper had known Karen Black and Hunter since Hunter was a tiny little kid because one of his best friends back in Texas was her husband Kit Carson, who at the time they were making this was scripting Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 for him. So
That's what I had heard. Yeah, and so they
it's a
all kind of
great
knew each
big
other,
family affair.
and that's how he kind of got into show business. This is his second role, I believe, as
Yeah,
a
I mean,
young actor.
Toby had never thought about putting him in a film before, but he'd just been in Wim Wenders' Paris, Texas, and got rave reviews right before this was going into production. So Toby thought, obviously, I'll harm a friend's son.
So this has a very similar feel to me, as does. Okay, the movie will come to me. I'm drawing a blank.
Now,
Oh,
the hill that the aliens have landed on top of, that's a studio set that's made to look as much like the hill from the 1953 original as possible.
and I have a feeling this got kind of lost in the theaters either by Monster Squad. That's what I'm thinking of because Monster Squad was caught in this marketing dilemma. I wonder if this movie was caught in it as well because it deals with a kind of an adult subject matter, but it's still kid friendly, I believe.
Well, I think Toby Hooper's line was that Canon actually wasn't very good at marketing films because the way they'd usually done stuff was, quickie Charles Bronson and Chuck Norris action movies where they'd pre-sell the rights to TV stations before the film was made, so it didn't really matter how it did in the cinemas because they'd already made their money back. But that didn't work when you were chucking 12 million quid at something like this. And the poster campaigns and stuff just didn't really say anything. They were just like a picture of the hill.
But yeah, we are now introduced to David and his suburban life, and he now has a what we will come to know as a spaceship that lands in his backyard. So I am curious, has anybody seen this in the movie theater when it came out? Or was this a rental or
It, I think
cable?
far more people will have seen it probably in its big box VHS life
That's
than
what I'm
ever saw
guessing.
it in the cinema. I mean, the thing is, I think this is a film that's probably much better now than it was at the time. I think that with the benefit of hindsight and time, I think you can really appreciate the sort of the spoofy, campy tone to it that I think might not have played well in a 1980s cinema.
Yeah, I think 1986. And I am going to guess it was a summer release. Yep, June 6th, opened in seventh place. Um, so budget of about 7 million. And back in the day, that was a lot of money. Box office domestic was only about 5 million.
Yeah. But the budget was 12 million, I think, on this one.
Very interesting.
Which is, oh, he's spotted something nasty on the back of Dad's neck.
Dad must be acting weird. Okay, so Calbot says cable, probably, and Matt says probably saw it in the theater. Wasn't that remarkable? So if we go back in time, 1986, the beginning of June, what else was in the box office at the time? Anybody remember? That was, I believe um, Aliens.
Yeah, I think there was a little film from James Cameron around that time.
Okay, box office for June of 86. Top Gun, Back to School, Karate Kid Part 2, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Oh, and Crocodile Dundee. That's a little film.
Now,
Yep.
the dad, Timothy Bottoms, is desperately trying not to show any emotion. But they made a mistake with this. They thought the machine making the coffee was making it at a drinkable temperature, but actually, he's drinking incredibly hot coffee and acting his socks off as his mouth is quite badly burnt.
So that steam on that cup was real, and he just chugged the whole thing.
Yep,
Whoa.
method. Now, this
So,
house is a real house, a film star house in its own right. It was Cary Grant's house in Mr. Blandings Builds His Dream House.
never would have guessed that. I don't think I'm familiar with that movie. I'll have to go back in my repertoire and check that movie out. So, how old was David in this movie?
Oh,
12?
let's have a look.
I'm guessing 12 ish. Nurse Ratchet as a teacher. She pulls it off rather
I
well.
would say Hunter
I'd be
was
scared to
11.
death. He was 11. Okay.
11, yeah.
This would have been junior high, I'm guessing, sixth grade, seventh grade. Yeah, interesting comment. Mad Matt says frog scene borrowing from ET as well. And
Well,
Alex also knows the frog knows it's going to be dissected.
there are a few things in this film where I think Toby Hooper is being consciously Spielbergian in a nod to Stephen. Because obviously, immediately before his Cannon deal, he'd had Poltergeist, and then all the unfortunate press after that that claimed Steven Spielberg directed it rather than him. So there was always rumours there was bad blood between the two. I don't think there was, because he then went on and did TV series and pilots and stuff for Steven Spielberg. But I think some of the stuff, like the frog scene, there's a dolly zoom just like the one in Jaws at one point, and next to Hunter's bed is a jar of M&Ms, which they couldn't get the rights to use in ET. So I think all those things are a cheery little wink at Steven Spielberg.
Well, you can definitely feel some influence, obviously.
And also, you can see the clear influence of the original film in the way it's being shot, because it's being shot from the child's perspective with the camera down low all the time. And I have a little nod to Toby Hooper's back catalogue on the television any second now. Because what would be on television after school in America in 1986?
Cartoons?
So, not Life Force then.
No. Unless it was a heavily edited version of it.
Are you, are
But I
you,
remember,
are you saying the Americans were too prudish to have full frontal female nudity at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon?
yes. yeah.
And here we are, the ice pick cool Colonel Kane.
Yeah, there have always been strict rules about what can be on network television during those hours. But you turn the cable, you can watch anything at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And I'm sure a lot of us kids did. I'm not the only one. Oh, the Cowbot says the Money Pit also came out in 1986. Ah,
Dad's not come
so
home.
so who else remembers after school specials? We used to have them here in the U.S. after school. You know, half-hour moral shows that would, yeah, it's good television, safe for kids.
Now we have a nice little cameo coming up. The police officer with the moustache, the one on the right, played David Gardner in the 1953 film.
I wonder if his name is Officer Gardner. That would be funny. So that other officer looks really, really familiar. He's one of those guys.
Apparently, he was best known for playing someone in a sitcom I've not seen called Coach.
Coach with Craig T. Nelson? Huh.
A nice little in joke again there with The cop saying he's not been up that hill since he was a kid.
This is very similar, get a very similar vibe from Invasion of the Body Snatchers when the entity takes over and replicates into you and void of all emotion.
Yeah. And of course, the original film predates the original Invasion of the Body Snatchers by a few years.
Yeah, the original Body Snatcher. Well, the remake came out in '78. The original came out in the '50s, I believe, black and white. '56.
So 3 years after Invaders from Mars.
Yep. So we learned that Dad works at NASA. So they live. Where's NASA headquarters?
Depends.
I want to say Florida,
Florida and Texas, I think.
Florida and Texas. Yes, officer. In unison, officer. Yes, yes. Oh, Miss Swift made a gift. My dad lives in a downtown motel. I bet that was one of those after school specials. Yeah, old Johnny Devick. I like the Body Snatchers remake from '78. That was the first one I watched before I watched the original. I love that one.
I think all of the Body Snatchers films are pretty good because although they change the settings, they all hew pretty close to the original short story.
Yeah. Boy, David's having a tough time. But didn't we all have a tough time 12, 13 years old in school? Just rough. What is that a bowl of pennies?
It is, and because if you remember at the start, his dad gave him an antique penny as a present. So David is a copper coin collector, which may or may not be significant later on.
It may or may not be, so maybe pay attention.
Chekhov's copper coins.
So I found this set rather interesting, where you go up the hill and then it's like this steep drop off,
Well, what
and
you
you don't
see,
see anything but sky.
well, in the original, it's always looked very like they basically walked up to the top of the hill, then almost dropped through a trapdoor straight away. Which of course they were. They were dropping inside the alien spaceship that had burrowed under the ground.
Hmm.
Under the ground, which is where you'd probably be if you ate this breakfast.
I think what would have been weirder is if she came downstairs with a cone head and David was looking at her kind of funny, like, "What's up, mom?" Not that you're just
And
cooking a ton of bacon.
last night is well, not just cooking a ton of bacon,
It's
charcoaling it.
burning it to a crisp.
Who
I mean,
hasn't
I
want,
like my bacon crispy.
who hasn't wanted their mother to prepare burnt toast and burnt bacon for their breakfast?
Just piles of bacon.
Oh yes, let's all go on a picnic up the hill.
Up the hill and then down the hill, because
That's,
there's
that,
no more
that
up
sounds
from their
nice.
house.
And what could we have for our packed lunch? Ah, raw beef.
And not just the raw beef. And I'm guessing she really ate this.
In
Oh,
France, that's quality cuisine.
that does not look like a prop. It really looks like she took that raw burger with all that salt and ate it. Oh,
As I say, on the continent there are plenty of raw beef based dishes. So you can see things are bad in his household. An 11-year-old child being offered the day off school, and he's desperate to get the hell out there and go to school.
well, as a child, you always think your parents are weird, but I mean, he knows that they're this next level of weird.
Well, his dad wasn't weird 2 days ago when he was giving him coins and helping him look at the stars so he could grow up and be an astronaut and go to NASA like his father.
So my subtitles, that was probably the only swear word. Is that right? Shitting. That would probably be enough to get it a PG rating. I think you're allowed one swear word and one F word.
Yeah, I think it's very similar with our ratings that before things go up to 18, you're allowed maybe one F bomb in a film. And I also think that sort of as with the original, it's very good the way that all the authority figures who a child might turn to for help, from their parents to the police to the teachers at school, they're all the ones who are being taken over.
Yep. And now we're going to start to notice what's different about the grown-ups.
I think we might be coming up to the scene that had Louise Fletcher basically refused to do until Toby Hooper took her to one side and put a lot of work into persuading her.
Yeah, and this is some 10 years after she won the Oscar for Cuckoo's Nest.
And apparently, she said to Toby Hooper, "I won an Academy Award. I'm not eating a fucking frog."
You know what? I haven't won an Academy Award, and I wouldn't either.
But in good news, it wasn't a real frog. They had a one made out of gelatin.
Well, the effect, yeah,
And
it
it,
works.
it tasted disgusting, apparently. And I mean, as an effect, it's very like the money shot in V, where Donovan sees Diana dislocate her jaw and swallow the hamster.
Okay, so David is now traumatized, but this is where we have Nurse Linda. And I found that interesting that had Louise Fletcher been cast as the nurse, she she would have definitely probably never heard the end of it. Nurse Linda, Nurse Ratchet
Mhm.
comparison.
Although of the two parts, I think the teacher is the one that probably makes the movie.
Yeah. I think it's the most fun. So I just wanted to mention real quick the results of the Hitchcock poll that I put up last week.
Yeah.
It was really really close. Lots of suggestions, and we will have a Hitchcock movie coming up, and I'll probably take the results of that poll and we'll watch a really really good one. But there were so many to choose from.
Who won?
Who won?
Yeah.
And I know there's a lot of love for the birds, but so far it was really close, North by Northwest or Psycho. But we could do the birds, we could do Rear Window. There were so
Vertigo.
many, yeah, there were so many suggestions. I think you had suggested Frenzy,
Yeah.
and someone else. Wanted Notorious. I mean, we could go on and on, but
So yeah, if you'd had said Psycho, I'd have had to throw out my controversial opinion that Psycho 2 is better than Psycho.
of the choices that I gave, Psycho and Rear Window, I think, are pretty much tied. Or was it North by Northwest? Um, but
Well,
I should
Rear
have included.
Window gives you an absolutely terrifying dialogue-free performance from Raymond Burr.
Which one?
Rear Window.
Rear Window. Yeah, so I think the results basically say, yeah, Hitchcock won. That Matt said Hitchcock won. We're all going to win with whatever we choose, or I'll choose a couple of them. We've got plenty of time.
They try to peer at to catch see if she's got something strange on the back of her neck too.
Nurse Linda's not buying it.
Oh, see, Alex Peacock speaks the truth that Psycho 2 and 3 are excellent. Least said about Psycho 4, the better, though.
Some franchises don't need to go on and on and on and on. They have an end of life. Franchises should all have an end of life. Well, I don't know about anyone's school but mine, but my nurse never looked like that.
I think
Never.
our school nurse mainly dealt with nits and other sorts of head lice type infections.
Yep. Tummy
Certainly,
aches.
she certainly didn't look glamorous.
Yeah, with the nice necklace, and she's probably got high heels, and oh yeah, so
Oh,
this little girl Heather has a mark on her neck too.
and we thought she was just unpleasant and creepy.
Hmm. Every school has the kids that are just a little off, but we should be kind to everybody.
But again, this is just that nice sort of building sense of paranoia as the nurse starts to see more and more signs that something's going on, that it isn't just his imagination. Yeah, I really wouldn't hide in that van.
Yeah,
Not that van, no.
not the van. Yeah,
Not
he's got nowhere else to go. He's the kid that knows what's going on. Grown-ups wouldn't believe him because he doesn't know who to trust. That is a trope as old as movies itself.
Of course he knows who to trust. In Chekhov's mention of someone who came to the school earlier at the start of the film, he told us who he's going to trust. General Mad Dog Wilson went and gave a talk at the school, remember? And who wouldn't trust someone known as Mad Dog?
Mad Dog. I found the way that they just shot this scene was rather interesting, where they're not zooming in on them, they're bringing the background
Yeah,
forward.
this is what I meant. This is a shot to Spielberg. It's basically,
Yep.
the dolly zoom in Jaws. He's doing that, but slowly. Yeah, this isn't at all a creepy murder van that he's got in.
And to think before she got that thing in her neck and she was just this regular teacher, that was her van. She
Right,
didn't just come across those animals.
and her, going to and from school every day in her murder wagon.
Yep. Well, taxidermy is a big deal in some places.
Hey,
There's a taxidermy place about 20 miles from my house. Yeah, Alex Peacock says the teacher's a taxidermist on the side.
if they run out of frogs to dissect, she could always produce a roadkill cat.
Yeah, it's got to be her hobby. Okay, so David is going to explore to see what the creepy teacher is up to. Oh, Miss Swift over on Discord posted a picture of Louise Fletcher in a very subdued character. I am not familiar with that movie. Does anybody give a shout out to that movie? She's a very accomplished actress.
Again, now we're seeing something else that's very much of its time with this movie. All these caves, when we later see the alien spaceship, they're all giant, fully realised sets. Whereas obviously nowadays it would be CGI everywhere. And they didn't actually have a studio big enough to put all this stuff in, so they used what had been the aircraft hangar for Howard Hughes's Spruce Goose.
Oh, Brainstorm. Okay, Miss Swift says Brainstorm with Natalie Wood, Christopher Walken. Was she in that movie? Very interesting. It's been a while since I've seen that movie.
Brainstorm is the film that Natalie Wood died during the making of.
Yeah, I think they just edited what footage they had for her character.
Mm.
And as a matter of fact, I believe because Natalie Wood and Christopher Walken starred in that movie, that's why Christopher Walken was on the boat that night because
See,
they were friends.
Mad Matt saying that Stan Winston was making this at the same time as working on Aliens. It's not strictly true. Stan Winston started working on this, but because he got offered Aliens and Toby let him go off and do that, This was actually mostly done by Stan Winston's now much enlarged team.
Well, there Dan O'Bannon had influence on this movie too, right? His name's connected with it, but
Well, Dan O'Bannon and Don Jacoby wrote Life Force for Toby Hooper. So when Toby Hooper had the rights to this, he turned to the same people to produce the script. And obviously, when he got his Canon gig, he had been going to direct Return of the Living Dead, but he let Dan O'Bannon do that instead. Oh, the supreme Martian intelligence.
not too creepy looking. Yeah, Dan O'Bannon did the screenplay, and I wonder what kind of influence he had in the set direction, the set, the cinema, well, not cinematography, but the set um, and the look of the film.
Well, I think the creature design, that was Stan Winston, because he had the idea that you would have a tall man facing backwards with a short person basically sitting on their shoulders facing forwards, so that when the creature's walking, the legs are kind of not moving like a human's would because they're back to front.
So, yeah, picture that inside these creatures. And that would explain the weird movements of them.
So you kind of got the short guy inside fiddling around with the animatronics on the creature faces.
Well, David's having a really bad day.
Not as bad as the frogs.
So little David, who is now grown up, I don't believe he is acting anymore. I think he was for a while.
He's directed some shorts. He was still making things like in the last 10 years, but very irregularly.
So she must have come looking for David at his house. Oh
Only,
no, that
only,
was her house.
only to find possessed policemen everywhere.
Yep. That's right. She sent him to her house,
Yeah.
as would any good nurse do, I guess.
Well, if I was David Gardner and there were scary monsters in this hole that was shouting, "We'll get you, David Gardner," I wouldn't make returning there a priority.
Yep.
I'd kind of say that the nurse has already committed enough that she believes him and doesn't need to be shown any further proof.
Yep. So
Already,
now we have
she's basically already at the point where in real life she'd at a minimum lose her job and possibly also
very
go to
likely.
prison.
That is, unless the whole school staff were taken over. But yep, now we have their alliance and they're going to Fight the evil forces.
People from NASA.
We're from NASA. We're here to help. We just, yeah, going to people's houses.
Cap- Capricorn 1 was just anti NASA propaganda. We're nice, really.
Well, if we go back to 86, that if this movie came out in June, the Space Shuttle Challenger would have been 6 months prior. Because that happened and I was a senior in high school. That would have been January 1986. I want to say January 16th. January
28.
16th, 28th. Okay. Oh, these poor guys. What are they looking for?
Metal detectors, so some. Oh.
They found it. They found something.
They found a perfection worm.
Tremors. It's the worm under the sand.
You see, now he needs to hot-tail it out of town and hole up at Burt Gummer's ranch.
Uh-oh. Oh boy. Your class is done for, David. Oh, look at the price of gas. Did anybody catch that? It was like $1.09 a gallon. California license plates, so they're out in California. That's about
Yeah,
right.
'cause I think the house that was in Mr. Blanding's dream house is in Malibu Park. So that will kind of fit with them filming around California. David Gardner.
Well, look at that, just yanking him out.
She did say she'd get you, David Gardner.
Yep, this is very much how the 80s felt.
Got children being chased down streets by frog-eating teachers.
Yep, payphones, low gas prices.
Yeah.
The vehicles are very 80ish.
Well, the thing is, dramatically, there's a reason why so many films now are set in the past. It's that a lot of films, if you look at them, wouldn't work set in the present day because you just get your mobile phone out and be on the phone to the FBI or something.
And the way it is, you open up your cell phone and you try to dial the FBI or law enforcement. They don't even have to pick up and they've already traced your call. And everything has been recorded.
Yeah.
Everyone's got their cell phone out.
As I say, it's why when they make films like, say, The Nice Guys or something, they'll set it in the 70s because things look cooler then, and you didn't have to worry about how the hell your story's going to work anymore.
Heather's dad also works for NASA, I believe, right?
Was he do work for the phone company?
Could be. I just wondered if we had seen Heather's dad, if he's got to already been turned.
I think they
Ah, so
wasn't he the one who came out of the bushes with Dad earlier on? He said he works for the phone company.
okay, that's what I was wondering. Because now we got to be
Which
wondering
is why
who's
why the
turning.
phone system has gone down. And we have when they go down into the cellar, we have another very nice in joke coming up because the original David Gardner turned up on set for his cop role with the prop of the Martian Supreme Intelligence from the 1953 film. So they just tucked it away in the cellar for a few shots. But obviously, if you're going to make one of these films, you do want to steal the best props and take them home at the end.
You would hope good props from movies have been saved. Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of them have been destroyed.
Well, I think now they're probably far more aware of how much things can be worth because you see props being auctioned off quite soon after films are made. Whereas they kind of were reused or went on the junk heap in days of yore.
There's a company that deals specifically with Hollywood memorabilia. Um, so it's a lot better than stuff being trashed.
I think their torchlight should flash across a supreme intelligence any second.
If only they had a better hiding spot.
You mean not right out in the open?
Right, not right out. Go into a closet or something. Yeah, Alex Peacock says, of course, all 80s schools had massive
There it is. There's
basements
the
and
great.
toilets.
There's the supreme intelligence in that fish tank.
It's kind of a nod to the original. Yeah, I guess it depends on where the building was located, whether they would have massive basements like this.
All American schools in the 80s had a massive basements like this. The school in whatever version of it is has a giant basement. That has a giant basement.
Yeah, I guess if the building was old enough and the school came in, it would already have the existing basement. Okay, so where did this come from? Just out of the ground.
Your standard Martian drilling machine, I think.
Just happened to be there.
It's probably got a David Gardner seeking drill bit.
This does remind me of Tremors.
Now, in Dan O'Bannon's original drafts of the script, this is roughly where the film actually starts, with them in a panic and fleeing to the army base, And then from the point at which they meet the general, everything we've just seen would have been in flashback.
So that was the original.
The original is they turn up in a panic. They get
Okay.
they get to see Mad Dog here and start telling him what's going on, and then we see what's going on in flashback.
So this is just a retelling of the story, so in more of a chronological order.
Yeah, I mean, but basically it makes it a far straighter remake of the original. And I do think this is all very creepy. This material, the way it's shot on the military base, and it was a genuine U.S. Marine base they were allowed to shoot on.
Well, that's what you don't see that these days. I don't think you're allowed to shoot on military bases anymore.
What they'd wanted to do is they'd wanted to use the Air Force, but the Air Force sent them back a message that said, your film is about aliens and UFOs, and the US Air Force's official position is there's no such thing as UFOs, so we cannot cooperate with your production. And one of the guys who was on the production team was an ex Marine, and he got on the phone to his colleagues, and the Marines were glad to help.
Yeah, because that wouldn't reflect bad on their position.
Marines have no qualms about killing Martians, as you will soon find out. Obviously, here we have General Mad Dog, the tremendous James Karen, who absolutely gets what sort of film he's in and plays it perfectly.
And he also had a small part in Poltergeist.
Indeed, and he is one of the good guys who, while Toby was alive and after his death, came out repeatedly when people claimed Spielberg directed Poltergeist to say, no, I worked on Poltergeist, I was directed by Toby Hooper.
You know, it was interesting back in the 80s when Poltergeist came out. I do not recall there being much of a controversy at all.
It was
Stevens,
shortly after it came out. There was basically Mick Garris had done a making of video, and that had a lot of behind the scenes footage in. And in the behind the scenes footage, there was a lot of Steven Spielberg looking like he was directing people, and not a lot of Toby Hooper. So it pretty much started to get around that Spielberg had done the film rather than just produced it. Whereas obviously Mick Garris now says that's not what happened at all. Toby Hooper directed it. I
and
mean,
didn't Spielberg lend his name to the movie just for
well, it
more
was
credibility, I think, for the
no,
project?
it was at the time Spielberg had been doing a thing where he was producing lots of films with other directors. Gremlins is an example. So he was basically helping get these things made. He had wanted to direct Poltergeist himself, but contractually he wasn't allowed to because he was tied up with the exorable E.T., the extraterrestrial.
E.T. Um, Off the top of my head, I can't remember. Did we do an ET watch party?
We are not doing an E.T. watch party.
No. I have I have my own opinion on ET.
I think if the previous watch party did do an ET watch party, it would have had to have been when Andrew was in Florida because he would not have done an ET watch party.
I totally agreed with Andrew until the day I die. I will proclaim ET
Calbot has confirmed we did
sucks.
indeed do an ET watch party, and Andrew was pointedly absent.
Yep. Yeah, Eric also mentioned we did ET. I'm sure I have it on my list. I think ET was great for what it was. At the time that I did watch it, I was not at a point where I love these sappy movies. You get drawn in emotionally and they sucker punch you at the end. Nope, I have no need for that. Give me a good Star Trek, Star Wars, sci fi movie any day over ET.
You see, what I'm liking here is that the general has basically believed them, their crazy story, because he knows George Gardner's dad, and George Gardner's kid must be a good kid.
But yeah, they've involved the civilians into this operation a little bit too much. You listen to them, haha, all right, you guys get out of here.
Well, no, he's what he's got.
But,
He's had the two people brought in who were sucked down into the sand,
and he sent them away. Yep.
and they have immediately confirmed that they are wrong uns by pulling guns on the general. So I would say that confirms what David Gardner of Will Get You David Gardner fame has said.
But it wasn't these two guys doing it. It was what we're going to see is that thing in the back of the neck that is directing them to walk into a general's office and pull guns on him.
Yes, I'm having to side with Edward the Black Prince in the comments against Mad Matt 4242. No Mac and Me rewatch. We did that with Dom and Andrew, and it was bad enough then.
Yep, we did Mac and Me, we did ET, we already did Extra. Um, I might be saving Extra 2 for a very special occasion.
Hell freezing over.
Very special. It's got to be a very special occasion. Oh, Matt put Evolution on the watch list. Am I familiar with that one? What year was Evolution?
It's the Ivan Reitman film with David Duchovny.
Oh, okay, that's a more recent movie, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one I'm familiar with. Wasn't that a tongue-in-cheek
It was
movie?
kind of an attempt to do a sci-fi version of Ghostbusters.
Okay. Yep, I seem to remember that. Okay. Oh, Edward the Black Prince. Yes. Yeah, when Dom's available is the only time I can justify that. And you're absolutely right. Yeah. Give it some time if Dom wants to come back, Andrew wants to come back to guest host. Let's give him some time off.
Only if Dom watches the 3-hour cut of Waterworld first.
I don't think, would any of us want to watch a 3-hour cut of Waterworld? No.
I've watched it. It was good fun.
Have you? Okay. When we did Waterworld, that was the theatrical cut.
That's the short cut down version.
That was a little over 2 hours, I believe.
Yeah, as I said, the short cut down version for wimps. Not for people who like their Kevin Costner films 3.5 hours long.
Yeah. Well, I hand it to Kevin Costner. Years ago, I had read an interview where he described his philosophy on filmmaking. And he talked about how he never liked robbing the audience of a good backstory or cheating them in dialogue and it's stretching out a particular scene if it made the film better. So I get why he makes the movies that he does and why they're so long.
Casting here with the NASA scientists. The younger scientist is Bud Court of Harold and Maude fame. And the older one, he's one of those guys whose name I can't remember, but I've seen him in countless films as scientists and authority figures, things like the China Syndrome. China.
Oh, that's a good movie. Okay, we're about to get a very surprising scene. Oh, Miss Swift posted a picture of Bud Cort. Was he the kid in Harold and Maude? Was
He
he
was,
Harold?
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
Lovely,
So
lovely
massive
bit of
explosion.
miniatures effects work there.
So that was a very important part of the story. I don't know if it's been revealed yet as to why that rocket was blown up.
It hasn't been revealed just
Okay.
yet,
No spoilers.
but also the people who were under the control of the aliens were caught leaving the base with a large quantity of stolen copper wire.
Hmm. That is going to be significant. So
Much
Alex
like
Peacock,
Chekhov's copper coin collection.
yep, it is significant coming up. So Alex Peacock says, Sharon, can I put in a request to not put Andromeda Strain on a watch party list? Good movie, but very, very dry in story and pacing. The original one, which is based on the Michael Crichton book, I
Excellent
agree.
movie.
It's good, but I think it's doesn't have enough action. It's long on story, long on plot. Um,
Oh, fine, we'll watch the 3 hour long Mikhail Salomon TV miniseries instead.
so I was gonna say,
Which is long on Benjamin Bratt and
yeah,
short on intelligence.
yeah. So I'm all for doing, maybe I'll pick up a mini series here and there if it's short and concise. We don't want to drag it out too long. Um, but yeah, I'll stay away from that movie. Maybe we'll do the mini series. Maybe I'll take a look.
No, it's bad, really bad.
But yeah, it was a good book. So the only thing I would say is wrong with this scene is bringing the civilians along with a
Ah,
military
well,
transport.
Cowbot is raising the fun fact that pennies made after 1982 are copper-plated zinc, whereas pre-1982 pennies are 95% copper. So it's a good job that David Gardner was given a 1950s penny at the start of the film, as that will be 95% copper.
Copper. I wonder if that's significant.
And again, the cooperation of the United States Marines Corps means that they were given all these armoured fighting vehicles to drive around Mr. Blanding's dream house.
Yeah, Alex, that's why the bowl of pennies was taken earlier. It's all going to come together.
So I said it was Chekhov's bowl of pennies. Missile batteries, armoured fighting vehicles. These Martians won't know what's happened to them.
So yeah, they plan on digging up that alien craft. That's what it looks like they're doing.
Well, you have two army and science groups going in. You have Bud Court and a group of Marines going in at the school. where the drilling machine had come through the basement floor.
Right.
And then you have General Mad Dog Wilson and everyone else at the hill. And as General Mad
So,
Dog Wilson has said, Marines have no qualms about killing Martians.
well, this doesn't it make you wonder though? According to the timeline we have for this movie, the aliens just landed, and yet now we're seeing this intricate tunnel system. So, makes you wonder how long the aliens have been here.
About 4 days on this timeline.
So that's a lot of work. That's a lot of Martians digging underground.
Well, it's not like most of the Martians can wander the streets because they're quite conspicuous, whereas they could be busy tunnelling without anyone
Yep.
noticing.
Well, just like the xenomorphs have to create their lair, it takes time. These Martians probably have just been digging 24/7 for 4 days.
It takes time, unless it's Alien Romulus, then it takes about 5 minutes, as does Alien Incubation.
Oh, you know what? This is the Sarlacc pit. Absolutely.
No, it's the worms from Tremors.
It's a Sarlacc pit. That's exactly what it is.
A Sarlacc pit is just a big hole in the ground that basically people have to jump down.
It's a Sarlacc pit that opens and then closes back up.
So I think James Cameron is great value in this. He's one of those actors who totally gets the sort of film he's in and he's playing up accordingly. Oh, this is a great moment too.
Yeah, that practical effect of those what monsters, aliens. That is not bad. Very well done.
If you read the letterbox reviews, there are lots of people complaining about the fake aliens, which is an odd complaint to me because what were they expecting? Real aliens?
Are we supposed to take a real alien and design it from there, I wonder?
Now, this I kind of love this naive 1950s attempt at first contact. I'd be looking at them and thinking they've got far too many teeth for me to be running up close and personal to.
Yep. But there is going to be the one guy who wants to be the first and thinking all you have to do is go up, say hi, shake their hand.
And he is indeed the first person
He's the
to be
first.
blasted by them. Do you understand me?
Do you understand me? Depending on how long they've been on Earth, they might understand him.
I don't know, I get the impression that the aliens, these are kind of like drones, that the supreme intelligence does all the thinking, and these are more like your worker ants or something.
Oh, Mad Matt posted on Discord. Someone else made the Galaxy Quest connection too. Those creatures look an awful lot like the guys, the creatures in Galaxy Quest on that rock planet.
I mean, the ones that start out looking like sweet little babies and then produce their fangs and strip people to the bone,
Yeah.
that force Peter Quincy Taggart into shirtless hand-to-alien combat.
Yep. The two-legged creatures that are basically legs and mouth.
Yeah, but the key part of that
Yeah.
sequence was him getting his shirt ripped off, because that is, we all know as Star Trek fans, is the key part of any Kirk fight scene.
Yeah. Oh, I remember getting hooked on Star Trek, the original series when it was in reruns, and just in awe of it.
To my mind, it holds up a lot better than any of the 80s or 90s series still.
Well, I admire David for wanting to save his parents, and all he's got is an assumption that his parents are down there.
No, David!
David Gardner, Nurse Linda.
See, Marines are going to do what Marines do best, which is blow stuff up.
So we have not done Texas Chainsaw Massacre Watch Party, have we?
Or Texas Chainsaw 2, or any of the other Texas
We
Chainsaw.
haven't done any of them, I don't think. What do you guys think? Too graphic? Should we try one?
Well, actually, Texas Chainsaw Massacre isn't graphic. It's everything is implied. You just think you've seen lots of horrible things.
To me, it's a psychological horror, which is sometimes more horrifying than actual gore and graphic.
But in the
So yeah,
spirit,
I
in the
don't.
spirit of the 80s, I would say the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 would make an excellent watch party.
Yeah.
For our final entry in Toby Hooper, the cocaine years.
Yeah, maybe to wrap out his trilogy.
Because after
So
that,
many movies.
because after that, there aren't that many Toby Hooper films that I'd recommend people watch. Apart from, of course,
Yeah,
Angler.
other than the ones we've already seen. Hmm. That's something to think about. Well, he was okay. Reminiscing back to the 70s, the Salem's Lot miniseries.
Love it.
Yep. I think I like that better than the 1994 miniseries remake.
Of course, we had over here a theatrical release of of the Salem's Lot 70s miniseries, except it was edited down to about an hour 40 and had a bit more gratuitous violence put in.
So they must have cut out a lot.
Uh, it's it's as cut down as the theatrical release they did last year.
That's okay. That's the one I would go for. Okay, Calbot says, did we do Toby Hooper's The Funhouse? I don't think we've done The Funhouse yet.
Funhouse is good. That's like his first studio picture. I think the ones I know we've done watch parties for are obviously Poltergeist and Life
Yeah.
Force. Oh no, Nurse Linda.
So the Marines are here to kick some ass.
Well, I think they've done. We've already learned that saying "We come in peace" and "Do you understand me" doesn't work. So, so based on that, we might as well go for machine gunning them.
I think it's safe to say they did not come in peace.
And I can't see someone called Mad Dog having a strategy that's based around peaceful understanding and dialogue.
Well, David's got himself in a predicament.
Surrounded by aliens that are various rude shapes. David Gardner, not everybody gets to meet the supreme intelligence.
My subtitle said Martial intelligence, but I had a feeling it should have said Martian
It
intelligence.
should have said Martian, yeah.
Yeah, I
What,
think we're,
have you got a streaming copy then?
yeah. Yeah, I have limited space in my office now. So I don't have my DVD player or TV set up.
I have my Blu-ray.
Yeah. When I finish this move and get a new setup, I'll be able to have a lot more stuff available.
You can
So
see that.
yeah, subtitles are a little lacking.
You can see that apart from when she had to eat the frog, Louise Fletcher's having a ball here.
She's got to be having a ball making this.
It's your turn now, David Gardner. Ooh, I come in peace, Miss Swift. That's the is it Dolph Lundgren.
Yeah, I was just noticing that. I don't know if I'm familiar with that. I come in peace.
It's also called Dark Angel. I think it's got Dolph Lundgren is a cop, and there's an alien going around his city murdering people because to this alien we are the equivalent of crack cocaine when it kills us. And the only words of English this alien appears to know are "I come in peace."
Yeah, Dolph Lundgren. I'm not familiar with his movie. I think the only one of his that oh, he was in the Expendables, wasn't he? I know him from Rocky one, two. What is it? One, two, three, or four? It's Rocky four. No, three. No, four. Five?
I mean,
Four.
I know him from the James Bond film of View to a Kill that he has a tiny part in because at the time he was Grace Jones's boyfriend.
That's true. Yes, Alex, after the move, I'll be able to enjoy the watch parties in full surround sound. Yeah, right now, basically everything is getting packed up. Oh, yes, Dolph Lundgren is He-Man. That's right. Ah, gosh, you'd think I'd remember all of the movies we had watched.
I mean, all of the movies that have the headmaster from Back to the Future in as the headmaster. Oh, this is quite a nice moment too, with his adjunct fighting his alien conditioning.
Oh, yep, he's fighting the takeover. But you know what? You can't point a gun at a bunch of Marines and expect to get out of it alive.
have to say it's quite nice to meet aliens who aren't immune to bullet fire.
So in the whole scheme of this movie, we've only seen this one alien craft. Why wouldn't they have landed a couple of them? Or is their purpose just to land the one?
Well, their purpose was to stop the Mars probe being launched. Which, as far as they're concerned at the moment, is mission accomplished.
So had they just blown up that rocket, they could have made a clean getaway. But David got in the way. Yeah, Alex, they're a scout ship, not the invasion fleet. That's what it appears. Because it was like this preemptory strike on that rocket. That would make sense. And it wasn't for taking over the world.
Well, Mad Matt asks why the Supreme Leader. It's not the Supreme Leader on the scout ship, it's a Supreme Intelligence. Because, as I said,
Yeah.
these seem to be creatures a bit like an ant colony, where you have lots of drones or workers, and then a queen at the centre. So they might have many of these supreme intelligences, each commanding their own strange ships of strange creatures.
That could be. Because you don't send Kirk or Picard on an away vessel, but they would do it all the time.
Well, technically, you'd send, say, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and someone in a red shirt on an away.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they did that all the time, but you wouldn't send Kirk the whole time, every single away mission. You wouldn't send Picard. You'd send the
Of course you'd
underlings.
send Kirk. He can outwit any alien supercomputer he meets. He can out fist fight any Klingon. You don't need anyone else.
Okay, here's a debate: Kirk or Picard?
Kirk.
Yeah, for those of us that grew up, Kirk is just number one. Picard is a very close second. Yeah, exactly, Alex. Yeah, the thing in Star Trek that never made sense, you're sending your upper command structure to an unknown planet. You would never. Yeah, see? Okay.
Well, that
Miss
was.
Swift likes Picard. I love Picard. I was in college when Next Generation came out. So,
It's ridiculous. You have Patrick Stewart, who's very English, playing a Frenchman. They should have got the bloke from Allo Allo and had a string of onions round his neck. It would have been more convincing.
well, you know what? For what it was phenomenal. And I got hooked on Star Trek all over again.
Yes, Mad Matt's quite right. You do not send an ordinary red shirt to snooze the space babes. You send Kirk.
Okay. Oh, Johnny Devick's watching Enterprise these days. See,
I think
everyone's just loving Star Trek. What's not to love?
Voyager mainly.
But I happen to think if I put Star Trek or Star Wars as my favorite, I wouldn't be able to choose.
You know, unfortunately, I'm someone who comes from a family whose father cannot tell the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars. If I say, well, one has Darth Vader, the other has Captain Kirk, it's not that difficult.
It's not the same. But for people that have not immerse themselves in those universes, it kind of feels like the same. Okay, here we go. There's that 58D mint condition penny.
Because luckily David had that because the Marines are not allowed to carry loose change into battle, which is actually true.
So that penny, it's like putting money in a coin bank, in a machine, coin machine.
See?
You had
Chekhov's
to,
penny.
yeah, takes a penny to shoot someone.
All these things they make a point of showing you at the start of the film. Leave them, they're not worth it, David.
Oh, come with us, David. Well, that's one way to end the battle. Blow up the ship.
I have to say, from the outside, that ship does look very close encounters of a third kind. That's their microchips blown. And that's a supreme intelligence blown.
So they would still have that thing in the back of their neck, but there's
No,
no way to communicate with them.
no, the things in the back of their neck exploded.
So, okay, here we go. Poor David's waking up from a bad dream.
Well,
Thank God, David.
the implication is they're doing the he woke up and it was all a dream, or was it ending that the American version of the original had. But not
Yeah.
quite that.
After, after Dallas, the TV show pulled that it was all a dream crap, I tell you, audiences just don't buy it. It's a cheap way out. But you know what?
I can still remember Bobby Ewing stepping out of the shower.
Shower. And it was just all a dream. Yep. That was the only time in history. Well, no, a second time was Newhart, the end of Newhart. It works. But this movie's not over yet, but we're led to believe that David just had a bad dream.
You see, they could just be saying that it was all a dream and none of it happened because they don't remember any of it because they were under alien mind control.
Exactly. Yes, Calbutt stopped watching when Bobby came back. Yeah, so did a lot of people. Yep. Alex says Newhart only works because of Bob Newhart and Suzanne Plachette came back at the very end.
See, his jar of coins is back.
Okay, Mom seems normal.
Of course, the other big "it was all a dream" ending is Saint Elsewhere, where everything, the entire series, is happening in the imagination of a child. Which, because Saint Elsewhere crossed over with all these other series, basically makes a huge swathe of American television part of this child's imagination.
Yep, that's true.
I mean, I think even
Okay.
even Cheers is part of the Saint Elsewhere universe.
Uh, I was not into St. Elsewhere, but I bet you're right because a lot of shows back then had connections. David's story's not done. Here we go.
Now, it doesn't quite end the way Toby Hooper had intended. What he's meant to be seeing and screaming at in the final shot is one of the Martian creatures eating his mum and dad.
Okay.
But they ran out of special effects crew time and so didn't do the shot.
But we are left with David screaming after coming into his parents' bedroom and end movie. So we're left to what the heck? So there we have it. What a fun ride, James. That was a great recommendation.
And a brisk hour and 40 minutes.
And yes, it was. We kept it well under 2 hours. All right, everybody, that was Invaders from Mars.
So,
Um,
what did everybody think of Invaders from Mars?
yeah, Eric says that was another fun watch. Alex says fun one, new to me. Good deal. That was new to me too.
Edward the Black Prince says David Gardner walked in on them banging.
It was a fun movie. You know what? I remember it was back in the day, and I must have watched it because it was on cable. But it feels like I'm just revisiting it for the first time again. So, all right.
As I think the kind of the knowingly campy, spoofy tone has made it age really well, and all those beautiful sets and practical effects are all they're timeless.
Yeah. Yeah, very well said. Because that movie was fun and it aged well in a very fun way. Not too over the top, not too highbrow, not highbrow at all. It was just fun, and the story kept moving along. So, all right. Well, Miss Swift says good party movie. Edward the Black Prince says, yeah, it was fun. Well, I am certainly glad everybody joined us today. Um, so next week, I was awaiting confirmation on the guest that I have for next week and the movie they chose. Well, let's go ahead and announce what we're going to watch next week. So, we are going to watch The Shadow from 1994.
Russell Mulcahy.
And that was, I haven't seen that in decades, but that's
Russell
got,
Mulcahy directing Alec Baldwin
that's the
with an,
one.
with an evil Tim Curry, I think.
Um, yep, Alex Peacock. Yep, that's the one. Um, so we're going to be doing this again next week. We're going to have another fun movie. I hope you all can join us, spread the word. And how about some last words, James? What do you think?
Ooh, already said that Marines have no qualms about killing Martians, and quite rightly too, because those Martians were rotten types.
Yep. Fun time today. And next week should be just as fun. So, all right, everybody. We're going to be doing it again, same time, same place, same day. And we will thank you all for being here. And
I
we'll
would say
see you on.
thinking ahead to next week, just remember, guns don't kill people, Alec Baldwin kills people.
That's relevant. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Thank you for those words of wisdom, James. And to all of you out there, we'll see you
Take
next
care.
time.